Welcome back. If you've just followed on from the last video, you're probably thinking, Chris, this isn't a kit bash video. You're right. I am sorry about that. That is coming, but unfortunately my phone and the editing software that I was using fucking hate each other now for some reason. I don't understand why. So I've had to download another editing app and I'm teaching myself how to use that as we speak. So that will be coming down the line. As luck would have it, Games Workshop sent me a free copy of House of Shadow and the new Delaque model kit, so I thought I'd just do like an initial response video to that rather than an in-depth review. It's going to be pretty freeform, off the cuff. I've made some notes, but there's no script or anything, so it's just what I found so far and what I think of it. As soon as I've done this video, I'll be going to shoot one on my current Vansar project, Strix Syndicate. I've been working on them for ages, so I'll just show you where I'm up to at the moment, what I intend to do to finish them off, kind of how I got to where I was and what my process is, and hopefully that'll be useful to someone, or if not, just ignore it, I guess. House of Shadow follows the same template as the previous 5 House of books, insofar as you can expect a new champion type, a prospect, a unique skill tree, new tactics, terrain, scenarios, alliances, hangers-on, and obviously your house gimmick or novelty. So Goliath were Gene Smith, Vansar Cybertechnica, Escher, Chem Alchemy, etc. As far as the lore goes, the expanded lore, they've done something quite special and unique insofar as they've used an unreliable narrator motif. So there's several kind of theories posited. None of them have given any real weight or credence. Apparently there's an element of truth in most of it, but not the whole story. It's such a cool kind of Delaque way of relaying the information. Very similar to how the Joker explains where his scars come from, or like his origin story. It's malleable. It depends on who he's talking to and what the situation is. Now, there's a definite Cthulhu kind of eldritch vibe going on underneath the whole of the lore. You've got like subterranean oceans with ancient aquatic Xenos races. You've got rogue planets that bring dark dreams that just kind of hypnotize and entrance random members of Necromunda's population so that they just kind of walk out of the beds, down tools in the job, and just go off in a kind of Shadow over Innsmouth styly vibe. As a Lovecraft fan, it's really fucking cool and it's done really well. This Cthulhu-esque kind of influence extends to Delaque language. So there's an example of some Delaque script and then a translation. I'm just going to read that for you. Now, I have no idea how you pronounce Delaque words, so just bear with me. Chuhan relega nis kohlua ris, which translates as the deathless sleeper waits beneath the dead world, which is obviously Necromunda, dead world. If you're familiar with Lovecraft's work, there's a passage that is kind of repeated, and it's a Finglewe Magalwan the Fak the Tulu Relay Wagan Nagal Fatagan, which essentially translates to roughly the same thing. Cthulhu lies in slumber in his temple and waits for Riley to rise, or something like that. I am paraphrasing because it's a long time since I've actually read the English. And with the names and the kind of the fighter types, is like Nachtgul and Zeitgeist. It has that kind of guttural, glottal, Lovecraftian feel. As with the other household books, it comes like a renaming of the fighter types and the inclusion of the new ones. So your leader is now your Master of Shadows, rocking in at 100 creds. Your champion is a Phantom, and your Uber champ is the Nachtgul. Your Phantom's 85 creds, your Nachtgul's 110. The prospect is the Zeitgeist, they're 60 credits. Your Ghost, which is your standard ganger, is 40 credits, and your Shadow, which is your Juve, is rocking in at 25. Okay, so your Phantom has access to obviously all of the weaponry with the tools of the trade rule. So Delaque favourites like long rifles, web guns, etc. They are the only fighter that comes with the new skill tree as a primary, and that's Obfuscation. We'll touch on that in a bit. The new champion is the Nacht Ghoul, which is kind of like a assassin spy style, even more so than usual Delaque. They've got 2+2 weapon skill, so really good melee fighters, and strength 4, which is awesome because they get access to the new gear, which is the Serpent's Fang. So that's strength +2, so you're rocking in at strength 6. Paired, phased and rending. Now paired we know is nasty because it doubles your attacks. Rending we know is nasty because it's +1 damage on a 6. But phased is this new weapon trait that Delaque introduced, and essentially it negates all armour and field armour. So if you get hit, you're taking that shit unless you've got a skill or some other kind of way of negating that, but you're not making an armour roll. It's as simple as that. They also have access to a thing called a Shiver Sword, which is like a katana thing, and that's strength +1, so still strength 5, which is pretty tasty. Parry, power and sever, which is it's pretty cool. They also have the term From the Shadows on their profile, which essentially means that you can hold them back at when it's time to deploy gangs, and at the start of any round you can just bring them in and stick them somewhere as long as they're out of sight and within 6 inches, out of the range of 6 inches of an enemy. So just a really cool assassin style character that I'm really looking forward to building and using. The new prospect is the Zeitgeist. Now these are like beyond, they've gone beyond humanity. They're even kind of feared by Delaque themselves. They're just like crazy, trance-faced. They look like psychic, full-grown baby things. They're really creepy. Now they have access to a thing called the Psychomancer's Harness, which is on the box art. You've probably seen the thing with like the 2 octopusy tentacle things coming off it, and it's essentially like a bespoke servo harness with psychic drugs and shit getting pumped into the user. That increases the movement by 2, so movement 6 you're talking to a movement 8. It means that they can climb without penalty, so they can just scuttle about like creepy bald freakazoids. And they come with what are they called? Pyromantic claws. Now these are strength +1, paired, phase and shock. So again, double on the attack, negating armour, and with shock, that's on a roll of a 6, that's just straight to wound. There's no wound roll, you're just rolling those dice. Really nasty stuff. The Zeitgeist also have the keyword Psychoterric Mastery. Now this means that they have access to psychoteric powers, which we'll come across in a second. But your leader, so your Shadow Master, Phantom and Nacht Ghoul all have Psychoterric Whispers as a keyword, and this means that they have the potential for you to unlock the Psychoterric Mastery within them. With Psychoterric Mastery, it means that you get 1 free power from 3 select disciplines, each with 6 unique powers within that. The Zeitgeist gets to take that for free, so they have the Mastery and 1 of the powers. With the other 3 fighter types, you can pay 30 credits to unlock the Psychoterric Mastery, and that means that you'll get 1 free power. You can then pay for additional powers for either the Zeitgeist or the Shadow Master, Nacht Ghoul, Phantom, for an extra 30 credits. And I guess you could do that as much as you wanted, but obviously credits are going to run low if you're starting off with 1,000. Now, you can add to these within the campaign. So say you just want to start your leader off with the Psychoterric Whispers keyword, so you still got the potential. At any point during the campaign you can spend experience points to unlock Psychoterric Mastery and to unlock additional Psychoterric powers. It's 7 experience to unlock Psychoterric Mastery on any of the 3 fighters, and then it's 6 experience for a random power or 9 experience for a power of your choice. So Psychoterric Whispers are like these short range psychic attacks unique to Delaque, starting off at about 3-inch range, so it doesn't feel like a lot, but there's ways to boost that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. There's 3 disciplines, so you've got Madness, Delusion and Darkness. I've copied down a couple which stood out to me, but there's some really cool ones in there. So with Madness, there's one where the enemy has to make an intelligence check, otherwise they bottle and flee immediately, which is cool on its own. But it's also contagious, so if they run within 5 inches of a member of their gang, they then have to make the intelligence check or they break and flee. So it's like this contagious paranoia. Another one just means that you basically give the insane trait to somebody, a condition. Delusion, there's one where you can just pin an enemy within 12 inches, so just get on the fucking floor. And then the other one I've just wrote, quit hitting yourself, because there's a power where you can make somebody smash themselves in the face with their own melee weapon, which is fun. Darkness, I've only written one down for this, but it's called Eternal Slumber, and anyone within 3 inches who is seriously injured just goes out of action, like you just stepped in among the bodies of the people writhing around trying to get to their feet, made some kind of eldritch whisper in an unknown tongue, and they all just go, which is just awesome. But so with the Psychoterric Whispers, although the majority of them are fairly short range, some of them are 12 inches, which isn't too bad, but the majority of them are around 3 inches. Now there are ways to boost that, the first being the Psychoterric Choir, which is essentially the Gestalt psychic field that surrounds Delaque, means that any Delaque you have within 5 inch counts as a buffer of 1 inch. Up to 3, so that obviously doubles the range of those very short range skills to 6. But then obviously the Zeitgeist have access to the Psychoterric worms, which are essentially like nodes. Now what's unique about these as pets is that they can fly within they can stay within 12 inches of their controlling character as opposed to the usual 3 inches. And you essentially use them as like a relay. So if you've got your worm 12 inches away from you and then there's a guy 3 inches away from that, you can attack them with that Psychoterric Whisper. It becomes like an extension, like a baton. You've passed the baton. They burrow underground and can get in all kinds of crazy places, so it's a really cool, creepy suit, really suits Delaque. So you've got the Psychoterric Choir, the Psychoterric Worms, and one of the hangers-on also is a good way to kind of boost the range of the attacks. So let's take a look at the hangers-on. So in addition to Spiker now being moved into that category, we get introduced to another 2 new ones. One's Delaque specific and one can be used by all gangs. First one is the Whisper Merchant, who's available to all gangs, but 30 credits to Delaque and 60 to anyone else. So essentially the Whisper Merchant counts the roll of a d6 as a 6 automatically, so that can be used within the determined scenario, choose crews, receive rewards, seek rare or illegal items. You can only do it once per sequence, up to a maximum of 6 times. After 6 times the Whisper Merchant wants his due, so essentially you just have to pay him his hiring fee again, but really strong campaign support character. Unique to Delaque as a hanger-on is the Psychoterric Thrall, which is rocking in at about 90 credits, which is quite expensive, but essentially they become a further way to relay powers further on. So as long as they're within 12 inches of the person wanting to use the weird power, you can then use them as the place to measure the power from. So they're 12 inches away, you're using that 12-inch power, you've essentially got a 24-inch range. And a bonus of that is if you were to roll a double one, they would suffer the perils of the warp and not you. They look like the other houses, so Orlok, Vansar, etc., because they're essentially used to infiltrate. So they might just be an Orlok with a bald head, or an Escher who really likes long coats or has pale skin. And whoever you model that as, or say they are, you just have to declare to your opponent which house they're initially from. If you're facing off against that house, it's got a -2 modifier to leadership of any enemy within 6 inches of that character, and it's -1 to everyone else. It's just this kind of disturbing aura they have around them. Just a really fun little mechanic, and I can see so many modelling opportunities for it. So I talked about the Obfuscation skill, which the Phantom has access to as a primary skill. Some really cool powers in there. I've just written a couple down because I don't want to read the whole book out. Faceless. So until after you've activated, any enemy ganger or fighter who wants to make a ranged attack at you has to pass a willpower check, which is just really fun. Now, what's interesting in this one, which is one of the reasons I wrote it down, is that means even if you want to place a blast template touching the base of the fighter, which is something that's been quite a gamey mechanic against people like Corpse Grinder, where templates tend to be the go-to tactic for dealing with them, is that you aim near them and then they get hit by the blast. This negates that completely. Whether this gets FAQ'd and brought into the rules as a whole, or it's just specific to this power, I guess we'll have to wait and see. The other one is Doppelganger. So essentially you make the enemy leader take an intelligence check, and if they fail that, you get to bring an extra guy above the scenario allowance. Another just cool little kind of thematic skill. One of the big changes to Delaque is that the Brute, the Spiker, has been moved from that to a hanger-on, which means that they had a spot free, and they filled that with the Piscean Spektor. Now, these are rumoured to be the brains of an ancient aquatic Xenos race that maybe live in cities that the Delaque built in subterranean oceans. Or maybe they didn't. Who knows? And what happens is at the end of their lives, they make a pilgrimage to Delaque HQ, essentially, and offer themselves up. Their brains get taken out, pushed into these like robotic squids or cybernetic squid monsters. What's really unusual is not only have they changed the Brute, they've included the Brute in the box of models for the Delaque new model kit. And while that is unusual, you are going to want to take one of these as soon as you can. It's a flying psychic Brute with 4 attacks, 3 wounds. It comes with the psychomantic claws. So on a charge, this thing is doing 10 attacks. 10 attacks that can't be blocked by armour or field armour. And on rolls of a 6, just go straight to wound. It's an absolute monster. Oh, and it's psychic and gets a free psychic power as well. It's so cool. It's one of the standouts of the book so far. This Brute is a tyrant killer. It's an ambot killer. If you can get this up to somebody and get them into combat, it's not looking good for them. Okay, so I've just got a few little thoughts to add on the end, and then we'll get wrapped up. So, Juves can take web pistols. Juves with web pistols, everyone knows how lethal they are. Everyone can take smoke grenades, which has been something lacking across the gangs. There's only been specific fighter types able to take them. Just everyone gets a smoke grenade. The leader champ and Nachtgol, that's the Uber champ, can all take Camellia cloaks, which are really cool. And everyone except the Prospect and Juve can take grapnel launches. Now, if you've not used grapnel launches, they are fun as fuck on a Sector Mechanicus game, so you can guarantee I'm going to be fitting as many of them as I can. Really impressed. Just really thematic, creepy, spooky. Again, that Cthulhu Lovecraftian flavour just really sells them for me. I favour like an assassin type whenever I'm playing kind of RPG video games, so this is just right in my wheelhouse. Now obviously this isn't a comprehensive review, like I said before. I still haven't touched on terrain, alliances, the new tactics that are available at Delaque. There's so much more in this book, and I heartily recommend picking it up and reading it for yourself. So thanks for sticking around so long, and I hope you can join me for the next video. See you in the Underhive.